All right, welcome back, everybody. We're back to part 2 of free speech, you say, and this is the discussion. This is a discussion where we'll be going over free speech, as well as political / ideological motivated violence. And here in the stream, and I don't know who the fuck is typing consistently, but it sounds like it's Politipod. You need to fucking stop that.
What I do?
You are typing, and we can hear everything. Fucking stop.
I am on my phone, sir, so it's definitely not me.
Well, you're fucking typing something. Every time you do, your fucking name pops up in the Hangout.
I don't even have a computer near me.
Either way, you're doing something that's going clackety clack. Either ways, we're gonna go ahead and introduce everybody. Of course you are. We're gonna go ahead and introduce everybody. We're gonna start with Chair. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Chairview on YouTube, Chairview on Twitter. Follow me.
Good chill, man. Good chill. And I swear to God, at this point, if any of you have a Patreon and you want to fucking chill it, at this point, unlike a lot of other YouTubers, I don't give a fuck. Chill yourself out. I don't give a shit. And never.
I do.
This is my Patreon.
The Patreon. And anyways, we're gonna move on to Conflict now.
My name is Conflict. You can find me at Conflict Hurts, and I might later send you my Wattpad profile link. So if you want to see some interesting, crazy, really weird 40K plus Game of Thrones fan fiction, I write that.
Nice. All right, and next we'll move on to Dolphin.
Hey, I'm Dolphin Radio. You can find me on Twitter at Dolphin_radio_ and on YouTube at Dolphin Radio. I don't have a Patreon because I have a great job and I don't need it.
unlike so many of us.
Yeah.
All right, next we'll move on to Lady Machiavelli.
Oh, I am Lady Machiavelli, and I have both a YouTube and a Twitter account. I'm doing political shit, and I have upcoming is some gaming opinions where I try to argue against people who are trying to claim that gaming is sexist. And I do have a Patreon, but I haven't set it up completely yet. But if you're willing to throw money at me, then
well,
by all
means, the minute you have your Patreon set up and launched and everything, go ahead and send the link to me, and I'll put it in the description of the video later.
Okie-doke.
All right, next we're gonna move on to Roman.
Oh, hey, Roman, also known as Terrence Crosby. I have very confusing Twitter and YouTube profile names. I don't have a Patreon because who the hell's going to pay for the garbage content I produce? Moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
So
we're going to go to...
You're so full of it. Your content's good. What are you talking about?
Well, plenty of our content's good. We're just not, fucking shills.
Shilling.
And next we're going to move on to the one person who still has not given me their fucking Twitter name for me to put into the guest list. Samaj.
Well, it would be in the side chat if you open that up there and give it a gander. Also my Instagram and all the other kind of stuff. Which reminds me, do not bother looking me up. Do not bother typing in the letters SEMAJZ on any social media site, any other DeviantArt places. Don't bother looking it up. But since you're probably already doing that, you might as well hit the like and subscribe.
Well, thanks for letting me know. I'm going to put your shit in anyways. All right, and aside from Samaj, we have Politipod. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Politipod, also known as Sam Hunter. I make content. I run a podcast called The Politipod, if you didn't know about the name. And let's see what's happening.
I do apologize for
coming
my
on my
dog.
channel. I make a lot of rant videos on stupid stuff. I'm a drama whore. I talk about politics a lot, so that's cool. Oh, and my next podcast is going to have, hopefully, Omegon, Mim, Headroom, and Bene. So that'll be fun.
When is your next podcast, by the way?
It is going to be Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Sounds good. I mean, I may try to actually get in on that, because what's your topic discussion going to be?
I haven't decided yet. It's going to, today's Monday, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I haven't really decided. If something comes up, it'll probably be over either campus culture, because we haven't got to talk about that much. Because the one time that we did talk about that was more about the Berkeley riot. Or it'll be over something I just make up on the spot. I don't know.
That's all good. Well, whatever it is, by all means, I'd love to take part if you have me.
No problem, man. Just hit me up and I'll if anyone wants to join, I'll let them join as long as they got something to say.
Absolutely. I'll keep an eye on your Twitter about that, and I do apologize for the fucking barking. My dog is a puppy. He's a piece of shit.
Or beat your dogs. I mean, kids. Yeah, beat.
See, that's
Dude,
that's
don't you know that dolphins hate dogs?
That's
dude?
a funny thing. I beat my dog plenty because he's a piece of shit. But he takes after me, so he kind of likes it.
What's that, PETA? Oh, they said PETA's coming to take your dog away now.
People for the eating of tasty animals? What do you have to say about it?
They like dog.
Oh my.
I also I have to ask out of curiosity, is this an analogy? Or is beating your dog code for beating your girlfriend or your wife? Is that what's going on here? Are you confessing to a crime?
It's code
No,
for
we
beating
call that beating your wife. Why would you call that something else?
Okay, all right, you got me there.
It's called home training.
It's called being a man.
Does the one woman in the room feel uncomfortable yet?
Nah, I'm cool.
That's okay. You've already made the sandwiches in advance. We know you're fine.
No, she's one who wants to be beaten. So you're.
They're stress sandwiches.
Well, that's why our safe word is strawberry, isn't it?
Strawberry. Oh, that's funny.
Yep.
Hey,
So
dolphin.
yeah.
Oppression of women is funny.
Hey,
All right,
dolphin.
Oh, for sure.
Anyways, sorry about that. Anyways, our main topic of discussion again is going to still be free speech, what we think about it, etc., the consequences therein, if there should be any, all that good nonsense, as well as political violence, and as well as ideological violence, be it from the left or the right, and what our opinions on those things are.
I have a good topic to this.
Go ahead.
Should sports figures make political stances?
No. I mean, if they're an inherently political person and they have something valid to add to the discourse, then by all means, yes, absolutely. I don't think that a sports person is by any means incapable of having a political opinion or that their political opinion should be ignored. But at the same time, you got to pick your battles.
Well, they were going after Brady like really hard in the media, saying like, "Oh, you went golfing with Trump, so you must know you must have an opinion about his policies and blah blah blah." And they kept harassing him. And there's a couple other black football players that they were going after too. And they're like, "What's your opinion on the whole immigration thing?" Because there's that Muslim guy, right? And they went after him, and they were like, "What's your opinion on the Muslim ban?" And getting all this shit, right?
Sometimes I really envy the apolitical. Like, I wish you could have no opinion on things like that. Just...
Well, I mean, that does bring up a good issue. I mean, like I can understand athletes and entertainment figures, etc., etc. I can understand them making political points and everything, but that would bring into, primary focus the issue of, would you consider what Colin Kaepernick did a political stance, or would you consider it basically just kind of like grandstanding, like an attention-grabbing kind of issue?
I definitely think he was grandstanding because he did, to his credit, he did donate a lot to charity at the end of his year. After he took the stance that he did, I will give credit where credit is due. He did give a lot of charity to cases that support Black Lives Matter. But I do believe at the start of it, I think he really knew that if he didn't do something like that, he would be shown his true colors, and people would make an argument against, like, well, he's obviously doing this for, so he doesn't get fired. Well, I think that's really telling about this, because I really do think that he just did it to not be fired, because he is a bad quarterback. Like, let's be honest, he's not a good quarterback. He is the third string quarterback on the 49ers, who is the second worst team in the league. He had a couple decent years, and then it went to crap because everyone figured out how to stop him. And you see that a lot with quarterbacks nowadays, is that people figure out how to stop them and they're not as productive as they used to be. But Colin Kaepernick is a situation where he was about to get cut, and then he said, I'm going to make a political stance so I don't get cut. And then if people cut me, they're racist.
Yeah.
Well, there's an interesting question here, is that do you consider a person's personal employment to be relevant to their political opinion. Take, for example, Sam. Sam's, for all intents and purposes, a cartographer, and I am, for all intents and purposes, an engineer. So do we actually have a say in the political sphere? Absolutely, we both do. And if you looked at what we did in real life, you'd be like, well, actually, not only do you have a say, but you have a unique perspective of certain political points.
Especially if you vote and pay taxes.
Now, see, it would be different. I think it would be different, Dolphin, if he was a starting quarterback and he really felt like there was some problem in the community, I guess, his community, San Francisco, that is, or maybe the NFL in general. But what he did was, at the end of his career, the twilight of his contract, he said, I'm going to make this statement so I can keep my $17 million I'm going to make this year. And if somebody cuts me, I can sue them because they're being racist or something to that effect.
Well, see, this is where, in my opinion, I mean, everyone is free to have their own political opinion and everything. Sorry. My particular issue comes with people who are using their particular professional position to push their political opinion. Like, if Colin Kaepernick had, made his little stance or anything like that, or anybody makes a little political stance outside of the job, outside of their career, outside of their professional position, then, I'd completely agree with them, and I'd say, you have the right to do that. My primary issue comes about when they try to push these political positions or ideological positions in their job, in their careers. That's where I kind of take issue with it. Is like,
the problem
this is not a political issue. This is your job, so do your job. And if you want to have your opinion outside of that, then by all means you are free to do so.
Well, it seems very odd that a lot of the African American. Sorry for interrupting you, Joe. By the way, it seems to me like a lot of African American athletes, especially, whenever they want to take a stand, and you can see this with the OJ trial, and you can see this with Colin Kaepernick. It's always whenever they're in some sort of distress that they'll make this stand. OJ was like, well, the cops are racist. OJ had cops at his house all the time. All the time. He had pool parties with them. He hung out with them all the time. You have people, high-ranking members of the police coming in. He was a loved figure by everybody, especially in the black community. But the black community saw him as someone who didn't care about them until he got arrested, because then he was, by virtue, one of them again. I don't know why that is, but I guess because he got arrested. But
it's because Johnny Cochran made him be. He famously said, "I'm not black. I'm O.J. Simpson."
Yeah, exactly.
To his defense team.
And then you'll have Colin Kaepernick, who's about to get fired from his job, cut from the team, and lose $17 million of his contract. And magically, I'm for Black Lives Matter. It's been around for almost a year now, but I'm going to stand up for it now.
Well, yeah, that's essentially one of the issues I have with the position that Colin Kaepernick took, was that, everyone knew he was about to lose his position. Everyone knew his contract was coming to an end and all that good stuff. But and then he decided, I'm going to make this political position. I'm going to take this stance. And then, God forbid, if he gets fired right afterwards, or if his contract ends right afterwards, and he could go around and he could make millions of dollars saying, it's because I'm black. Completely fucking ignore the fact that he was raised by a fucking white family.
When you're talking about having an opinion outside your work, though, here's where it differs. If you're an engineer, that's one thing. But if you're a public figure like a football player, it's really hard to separate the personal opinion from the professional opinion, because you're such a public figure.
I agree. To a certain extent.
To a certain extent it is, but at the same time, he made this kind of statement at a fucking game, and he gave his explanation at a press conference. It's like, no. You're at your fucking job. You're doing your fucking job. So stick to your fucking job. If you want to go off on Twitter or Facebook, or you want to go out in the public and you want to make these statements outside of your job, outside of these press conferences, outside of the games, by all means, please fucking do so. That's your right as an individual and an American. And go ahead. Yes. But as long as if you're in that game, if you're at that press conference, if you are on the clock, fuck you, stick to your job. That is not a place to be making political opinions, because inherently it's going to start causing a lot of drama. It's going to start reflecting on your job and your position and your employers.
But the media's harassing them.
Well, if you can hang on, if you compare Jim Brown and Jim Brown and like LeBron James to Colin Kaepernick and O.J. Simpson, they helped their community. Jim Brown is an activist. He was an activist back in the 70s. He's an activist back in the 60s. He was one of the first, black superstars, as it were.
Uh-huh.
He was the O.J. Simpson before the O.J. Simpson.
Real quick, I'm gonna have to go.
No.
Yeah, I need to go to bed.
Oh, all right.
I'm ready.
And then you look at LeBron James. LeBron James makes some statements inside of the game, like whenever the cops choked that dude who wasn't even doing anything wrong, in my opinion, choked him out, and he died from it.
I can't breathe.
He wore the "I can't breathe" thing. Well, that was a completely unjustified killing, but I think his weight had more to do with it than the cop. You look at him doing that, and then he speaks up and he says, well, I'm not going to take a stand like Colin Kaepernick did, because I don't think it's not my job to say people are evil, because I forgot what his actual statement was on it, but he said he wasn't going to act like Colin Kaepernick and kneel for the anthem, basically because he likes America. He loves America. He doesn't want to do that to him because he's gotten everything from American people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you compare Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James and Jim Brown and all these Muhammad Ali, people like this, who actually took a political stance and meant it. You have proof of them meaning it. And then you go up against O.J. Simpson, who only when he was in trial starts talking about black issues. You go to Colin Kaepernick, who only when he's about to get fired gets into black issues.
Well, I mean, it's because it'd be no different.
There's no plurality there. There's absolutely zero.
It'd be no different as far as when it comes to especially Colin Kaepernick. It's like it'd be no different than if I'm working at a fucking Safeway and I'm a fucking cashier, and then some black person comes in line and I'm trying to do their groceries and everything, and then I start bringing up some kind of political racialized bullshit to them. And then, God forbid, if I get fired, I'll be like, oh, this is discrimination or some sort, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, it's your fucking job. You're at work. You're at your job. Don't bring that shit up because, one, it makes people fucking uncomfortable because it's completely unfucking required.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's like, dude, this is a political opinion. It's a personal political opinion. And that's exactly the key phrase there. It's personal. It's personal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do this kind of crap, do it off the clock. Don't do it when you're at a press conference. Don't do it in front of the public fucking eye when you're sitting there representing your employer. It's personal. Stick to that. Just make it personal. If you want to put it up on Facebook, if you want to say it, out on the goddamn streets when you're just randomly talking to people, if you want to put it up on Twitter, that's perfectly fine. But don't do it while you're at a press conference or in the middle of a game or working behind a register or whatever. It doesn't matter. That is not the fucking place for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most hilarious aftermath of this is like all the players who were doing it now. And then you have people speaking out against it, like Jerry Jones and James Harrison. Two very prominent figures in the football community. And you got people like John Tortorelli, who's the hockey coach for, I think it was the LA Kings. I think he's now coach for, who is it? The Flames or somebody like that. I can't remember. But you look at him and his stances on that stuff. And then you go and you look at how the media reacted to them saying stuff like, I don't believe people should sit down for the national, or should not stand for the national anthem and put their hand across their heart, and then saying that they were going to bench players for doing it.
Right.
It's like, you can't have it both ways, media. You can't say, well, these people should be fired for saying these things, and then go and complain whenever somebody makes a stance and then they get fired. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Well, see, that's why I understand, technically speaking, their right to not stand for the national anthem. I completely understand that. Like, if Colin Kaepernick and all those people don't want to stand for the national anthem, that's fine. That's cool. That's not a political statement. You're just not fucking standing for the national anthem. When I was I was in fucking school and we would, say the Pledge of Allegiance and all that shit, I wouldn't stand up. That's not a political statement. It's just being like, I'm too fucking lazy to do it, or I just don't care. But it's the minute that you move beyond that, when you start going to these, public fucking press conferences and everything with your fucking team's logo behind you, and you start making these fucking political statements. That's when you need to shut your fucking mouth and not do
Especially
that.
when you said, because it's kind of like the Army, because I'm in the Army. We can't do press conferences and talk at them in uniform, because that means that we're speaking for the entire Army. Unless we specify that we are not specifically talking about the entire Army, we can't talk to the media about stuff.
Exactly. And it's the same concept with your employers. It's like, you don't do this shit when you got your fucking employer's logo behind you, you're wearing your fucking uniform. Shut your fucking mouth. Otherwise, you're going to give the impression that you are representing your employer, that you are representing their opinion.
Their interests. Yes, exactly.
Well, the other aspect
here real quick, if I may, that for all the crap that we give police officers for the way they behave, just remember that they give up that First Amendment right, just like the people in the Army, and just like what we're talking about here. When they put on that uniform, that's why whenever people go up and they try to interview police officers, they won't say anything. They're not allowed to, because they're representing the police force, and they can't put that in their uniform. So
the only kind of antidote I can kind of give for that kind of thing is if I were to, take a customer call at my place of work and then answer the call with the company's name and then my name, and then after I finish, helping out the customer, I end the call with, Trump's Muslim ban isn't actually a Muslim ban. Bye.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
When you were at
I
work,
would get fired so fucking quick.
exactly. When you're at work, when you're in a professional setting, your personal opinions do not
That's
matter.
my cat. Sorry.
And so you shut the fuck up. It's when you are, because they're exactly that. They're personal opinions, political or otherwise. And so if you're going to make these kinds of statements, then don't do it in a circumstance that's going to, perhaps sit there and, inadvertently represent your employer. Their personal opinions, you stick it to a personal space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And just for the record, I did. I'm not cutting you off here. I'm gonna let you speak, but just for the record here, I did tweet out the conversation, and I did mention you all. So if you want to go ahead and retweet that, get more people in here to watch it and everything, then by all means, maybe you get more followers on YouTube, because your links are in the description if you gave them to me.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Also, because we all suck at our jobs.
That's it.
I was also going to say that the other thing about being political, it's really sad seeing companies getting political, and it's backfiring on them hard. Which also makes me think that I don't think companies should get political either.
Well, exactly. I mean, look at Twitter with all their pro social justice bullshit. They have taken so many fucking hits in the media. Their stocks have been crashing.
If you look at, for example, Chick-fil-A or Hobby Lobby, their stocks didn't take any hit from them not necessarily taking a political stand, but just standing their ground and saying, no, this is what we do, this is how we are, and if you don't like it, shop here.
I think.
And that's the primary difference is that, you look at like Hobby Lobby or Chick-fil-A, they may have been taking a stance, and that's understandable, but it's how you take that stance that matters. Where like Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby were just basically like, we're just committing to our First Amendment rights and everything that. Where you look at Twitter, where they're just like, no, this is hate speech.
Well, I think the thing that we're also forgetting, excuse me for going super Christian here, is like we're still pretty much a Christian nation. There's an overwhelming majority of Christians in this country of ours, and people do know that. I think I'm not saying that we are a Christian nation, but our people seem to tend to be extremely Christian.
I like the Christians; they're all right.
Well, it's more for. I'm not trying to be like a dick about Christianity or anything like that.
Oh, no worries. My father was a pastor.
Oh God.
But,
Pastor's kid.
I'm not an anti-theist.
You can be like Satan satire and just call me a friar or a father. I mean, because I'm a Catholic. But I think people forget that. I think people are going more. Whenever people make stances like, okay, our founder is Christian, he doesn't like gay people, and that's an opinion to have. You're welcome to have that opinion, even though I don't agree with you. You're not making your product about that. You're not at all making your product about that. And whenever people boycotted, Chick-fil-A for that stuff, they had a record turnout for it. And it's not that people hate gay people; it's that they didn't make the whole conversation about they didn't make a statement about gay rights. They didn't say, "Oh, gay rights are not human
it's
rights."
not like Chick-fil-A was saying, "Well, our owner doesn't like gay people, so we're not going to serve gay people."
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
it was just
what,
this was our own. This is what our owner thinks. This is what he believes. Big fucking whoop.
Yeah, and who cares? I mean,
I live around a lot of Chick-fil-A's, and one of my favorite things that Chick-fil-A really did very well is they had all these things where they'd have gay couples go into Chick-fil-A's and do what they called kiss-ins. And the people at Chick-fil-A were just like, "Okay, are you ready to order yet?" They didn't give a shit. They really didn't care. They were like, "Yeah, go ahead, kiss. I don't care."
Oh yeah, man. It's really no different. It's really no different than the issue of the fucking, the gay wedding cakes and all that bullshit, and people having some big fucking uproar about that. It's like, okay, so
that is the absolutely, and it's not even like the morality of it. It's the economic ramifications of somebody who just refuses to serve a certain amount of people. Like, do you realize that you're cutting off a percentage of your base that would buy something, especially the bakery argument for that? You know how many people go to a fucking bakery? Lots of fucking people.
There's a part of me that almost thinks that if I were to go to a very liberal area like San Francisco and open a bakery that was specifically advertised as pro-gay, how much business would I actually get?
If you're pro something,
the problem is they're going to call every single bakery, and what you don't hear when you hear all those complaints about the bakery that won't sell you a gay cake is all the calls that they made to all the bakeries where they went, "Hey, will you cater a gay wedding?" "Absolutely." "Oh, well, thank you. Never mind." Click.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my particular issue with that. Especially the fucking bakery shit. It's like I understand. I understand these people's right to say we won't cater a gay wedding, and they are well within their fucking rights to do that.
That's the funny thing, though.
But then you blow up this argument as if they're saying we hate gay people. Gay people are evil. No, we'll never do that. It's like, shut the fuck up and stop blowing that out of proportion and reducing the context to
stigmatism with the decreased stigmatism of coming out as gay now, because I think, in my opinion, this is probably the best time to come out as gay. It's the most accepting time ever.
Well, of course it is, because, and as a gay man, I can absolutely say this, is that
trendy.
It's exactly.
It's trendy.
It's absolutely good to come out as gay or transgender or having, being fucking gender fluid or being bipolar or some crap, is because it's fucking trendy. It's fucking trendy.
If I'm in a room filled with fellow 20-year-olds and I just say, "Oh, hey, I'm bisexual," I will immediately get a bunch of high fives.
Here's an interesting question: How many guys do you think are just taking it up the ass on a regular basis because even though they hate it, it gets them points?
Yeah, that's what
I can almost guarantee in our country of 350 million people,
there's got to be someone.
At least 170 million men. I can almost guarantee there is at least 50,000 dudes who are taking it up the ass regularly, not because they like it, not because they're actually gay or anything like that, but just because that's what's trendy, that's what's cool, and that's what they can go to their friends and say, "Oh, by the way, I had sex with a guy," and then they get high fives and fucking social points.
If I may, let me finish
and
my
not
point real
just
quick.
at my frat.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Let me finish this point real quick, if you don't mind. I feel like an asshole whenever I do that, though.
Oh, go ahead. No, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
No worries.
It's cool as long as you do it quickly.
Well, fuck yeah, you're right.
You have 30 seconds.
Go.
Well, here, when I was talking about the
29.
Son of a bitch. When I was talking about the decrease in
you asshole.
Can I talk? God damn it!
Let him make his point, you son of a bitch.
If the decrease in stigmatism means that there's going to be a growing population of gay people, and I think you see it with the Republicans now, is that people are more catering towards the gay people now. I was about to say the gay race, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me for saying gay race? That's not a race of people.
God, why do you gotta make everything racial? Why do you gotta be so black? Why do you gotta be so Black Lives Matter about it? Jesus.
Well, with the growing population of gay people, you do gay in lesbian, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Growing
But you
population.
see a
Lesbians don't exist. It's cool.
yeah, you see a growing population of them. That means that the consumer base is going to be more gay people. And if you have a 3% gay population, and especially after the Marriage Act or whatever the decision by the Supreme Court that allows people to get married, you saw an increase in wedding cake sales.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 3 bakeries in a city, 3% of your population is gays, and they all want to get married right then. That's 3% of the population wants to get married, and let's say it's 100,000 people. So that's 3,000 people. Or am I doing that math correctly? 3,000, 30,000, one of the two. And you have that percentage that wants to get a cake that day. Why would you say no to that? Why would you say no to that profit?
Yeah, it's so lucrative.
You see. Okay, so you got a bakery who allows everybody to buy a cake. Then you have a bakery who allows everyone except for gays to buy a cake. And then you have a bakery who allows everyone except for Muslims to get a cake. Which bakery do you think those people are going to go to? They're going to go to the one that sells everybody a cake. And you know why? Because people don't buy from places that they cannot buy from.
Well, see, that's the entire point.
That place is going to gain more revenue, more profit, and the other two are going to fail. It is economically unsound to and this is why I allow people to do this, is because it's economically unsound for you to do this. It's absolutely insane of you to do.
Well, see, that's the thing that most people just don't seem to fucking grasp, is that, all these different businesses and all these different people may have their ideological perspectives and their, personal religious convictions and everything else. But all in all, it always comes down to economics. Like, there's plenty of fucking bakeries. There's plenty of other businesses that'll cater to gay people and gay weddings and things like that, and they'll just be like, yeah, okay, sure, because it's fucking business. Like, God knows how many fucking bakeries in this fucking country are run by Christians, and the overwhelming majority are just like, yeah, sure, we'll fucking cater a gay wedding, we don't give a fuck. I mean, it's business. It's just I've noticed that particularly
He's mad because I haven't paid attention to him.
I would imagine. But I've noticed that, the LGBT community has this weird fucking issue where, oh, well, we need something to bitch about. We need something to fight. And so we're going to go out of our way to find this one rare instance where someone says, no, because gay, and they'll blow it out of fucking proportion. It's like, for fuck's sake, did you... Okay, call the other 20,000 bakeries who are run by Christians in this country. I can almost guarantee 19,995 of them will say, sure, why not?
Yeah, and if you really look at the amount of people who accept gays now, it is absolutely astounding. And people act like the Republican Party's like this holy, this unholy place where no one can be in the party unless you're white. And I think with the growing prominence of people like Milo and Sam Hyde, is that him?
I think so, yeah.
So Sam Hyde and Milo, they're both conservatives. The only conservative party in America, aside from constitutionalist and libertarian, is Republican, and that's the main one. So it seems the reason to me that if you are listening to Milo because he is gay and you are also gay, you're probably going to go to the Republican Party.
That's a particular kind of interesting dichotomy between political parties nowadays with the Democrats and the Republicans, is that while the Democrats continue... Well, the Republicans are, and that's kind of the point, is that the Democrats continue to sink themselves further and further into this identity politics bullshit. And so regardless of your identity, regardless of your skin color or sexuality or anything like that, they continue to inevitably push a shit ton of people away, while the Republicans are actually evolving as a party.
Yeah,
they are
and
actually...
if you really look at the I'm so proud of my party for doing the stuff that they're doing right now, because I am a proud log cabin conservative, which is the conservative party that believes that LGBT rights are also in the dichotomy of the Republican conservative narrative, which is life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I mean, if you're strictly looking at republicanism like I do from an economic standpoint, conservatism from an economic standpoint, not socially, Republicans are the best party for a lot of people who feel like disenfranchised by the by the left. It's absolutely outstanding how we're bringing people in, because you have more I don't want to sound like a racist when I say this, because I feel like I'm sounding like a racist when I say you have more colorful people in the Republican Party today than ever before.
Well, see, that's the particular issue, is that while the left and the Democratic Party continues to push all this identitarian nonsense, is that kind of like Milo says, like, if you don't fit into their ideological perspective and their opinions, then you're an outcast to them. And so what are all these people going to do? Like mainstream America, the working class, gays who have conservative opinions, blacks who have conservative opinions, Hispanics who have conservative opinions. Where are these people going to go? They're obviously going to go to the Republicans.
There's one of two places. There's the growing Libertarian Party, which is trying. I don't know what the deal is with the Libertarians, because the Libertarians are kind of going crazy.
The Libertarians would do a lot better if they would just fucking get off their fucking high horse of, presenting
Ancapistan.
of fucking presenting exactly. If they'd fucking get off their high horse of presenting Gary Johnson as like the prime fucking
Gary Johnson is probably the worst Libertarian I've ever seen.
If they'd get off if they would get off Gary Johnson's dick for a minute, they might actually become a prominent political party. But they won't,
agree.
So they aren't. So
here's
most people end up having to turn to the Republicans, because the Republicans are actually an evolving party. They may be more conservative generally, yes, but they are actually, admittedly, slowly, but they are moving along with the times. They are becoming, more embracing and accepting of homosexuals and minorities, etc., etc. And so, a lot of these people who feel, degraded by the current Democratic political establishment and ideological establishment are moving to the Republican Party, because they've been pushed away by the party that they've been supporting for God knows how many years, and and they're like, these people aren't welcoming me anymore. They aren't accepting of me anymore. They don't want me anymore because of my viewpoints and my perspectives on even one or two single freaking issues. And so I need to move to this party.
Here's my whole thing about this. So you have this group of African American voters that are extremely Christian. They go to church every single Sunday. They're good people. They don't like how they've been treated. And this is a very, because I'm in the Young Republicans Club here in my city. The growing number of people from the black community that are Christians, and then their ideals are lining up socially and economically, because our economics make a little bit more sense than the left's, in my opinion. Not because the left as it is right now is kind of going more towards they've been going towards socialism more and more. And if you look at the amount of African American kids that are now coming out and saying, "Hey, we've been voting for," and we had what's his name, the NAACP president of the United States, come out and say, "Hey, why are you guys not voting for Donald Trump? You need to vote for Donald Trump. Do you know why we need to vote for Donald Trump? Because for the last X number of years, we've been voting Democrat, and they have not helped us one single time. We've got the worst inner cities we've had since Jim Crow. We've had some of the worst crimes committed since Jim Crow. We got a lot of bad things happening in our communities that we need to get fixed." And they're seeing that the Republicans actually want to help fix them, and they're going more towards that party. But here's my whole thing with this. I think there's about to be a fragmentation of the two-party system, and I can't wait for it, because it's been so long since any major change-up has happened. And after Trump got into the presidency, I kind of figured that this is going to happen. I think it's going to go into these parties that are like, there's going to be a Libertarian Party, there's going to be a Republican Party, there's going to be a Democrat Party, there's going to be something like the Justice Democrats, which would probably be like labeled as a Labor Party or something like that, and there's going to be a Populist Party, because we have a growing number of people who are populist.
And one can honestly fucking hope, because at this point, after 200 some odd fucking years, and I swear to God, if you keep making crackly sounds and all that shit like you're rubbing.
Oh, sorry, I got my headphones in. My bad.
I swear to God, it sounds like you're rubbing your phone on your fucking pant leg. But honestly, in my opinion, I would love to see the rise of third, fourth, and fifth political parties, because after 200 plus fucking years of this two-party bullshit, it's getting us nowhere. Absolutely fucking nowhere.
Agreed.
It's just it's every fucking 4 years. It's the same shit over and over again. It's just getting more and more partisan. And the only thing that ever genuinely saves us from partisan bullshit is if there's some mass fucking tragedy or something like that, like a world war. And
as stated, I really hope the Justice Democrats takes off. Speaking of taking off, I got to go to bed. I got to get up at 4:30 in the morning. It's been great talking to you guys.
Love
Absolutely,
you.
it's been great. You have a good one, man.
Bye now.
See ya.
Oh, by the way, Steve Shy just uploaded a new video on free speech.
I don't
Of
care.
course he
Steve
does.
Sides is an ideologue. I don't talk to
No,
ideologues. He's blocked me.
I know, but he's trying to say how that people like Spencer and Milo Yiannopoulos shouldn't be given a fair shot with their words, that they shouldn't be allowed to speak, essentially. And
Of course he does. He wants to censor everyone's thought so his own thought can be pushed to
Well,
suit
of
his
course
agenda.
Steve Shives is saying that, because as far as Steve Shives is concerned, he's no different than any of these fucking moronic fucking
Steve Shives
ideologues.
is the center of Steve Shives' universe.
As far as Steve is concerned, if you don't agree with me, you're wrong, you're terrible, you're a Nazi, you shouldn't be given a platform. How dare anybody ever listen to you? You need to go to the gulag.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
he's
in this
well,
video,
he
he's
believes
putting
in
Milo.
geocentrism.
Yeah, sorry. He's putting Milo right beside Spencer and putting them in the same boat, and it's like, fuck. you.
They don't even Milo absolutely despises the alt right.
I know.
It's hilarious listening to these.
I mean, it's
fucking
like
idiots
it's like
talk.
that video.
Something that's hard funny is that Steve
robot.
does not have me blocked.
Well,
Oh.
I've tried to offer Steve Shives to come on my podcast, and as soon as I offered him, block.
Block you?
Well, exactly. That's the thing about Steve Shives, is that I have consistently told all of these fucking people, Steve Shives, Christy Winters, Kevin Logan, and all these, and Lacey Green, all these fucking social justice nitwits. I've told every fucking one of them, by all means, I don't care if it's a live stream or we just have a conversation that's completely off air. I don't care. Let's have a dialogue. Let's actually discuss several different issues that are of concern. And every single fucking time, it's either one of two things. It's either I never hear a damn thing back, or it's I'm blocked. These people
Well,
have
here's-
no
here's
fucking...
To
my
be fair,
opinion.
though, I've actually had a conversation with Kevin Logan a couple times on some live streams on Bane 666 AU's channel, and he does come on there. He sounds somewhat reasonable, but in his videos he backtracks and it kind of sounds less reasonable.
Oh, yeah,
Well, I'll tell you
that
this
kind
is
of
the
plays.
weird one.
That
The
kind of
most-
plays into what I said earlier about how Kevin Logan, he's not a fence sitter. He is the fence. He kind of swings one way and another depending on who he's talking to.
Exactly, and
But
also,
I can at least respect the fact that Kevin Logan, unlike a lot of these other people, he's actually willing to engage with people. He's actually willing to be civil, unlike these other people.
Well, if you look at people like ranting feminist is more of the she is one of the only people that I can actually her and American Anarchist are about the only two people I have found that will actually hold a conversation with you, because they like to hear other people's opinions on stuff. They think you're wrong, but they'll listen, and that's the difference between them and Christy Winters. And I've never talked to Tim Blake, but I've heard some stories about him. I heard he's not very listening.
Well, Tim's not that bad personally, because I was in a chat in a hangout where Tim was in there, and he was like the one, kind of far left wing dissenting opinion. But at the same time, he was still in there, and he was still in to have a conversation, and he was more than happy to sit there and bullshit and talk jokes and everything, and have a discussion on the issues and everything. So I do at least have to respect him for that as well.
Okay, so
You put Michael Rowlands in this.
you would sound like a robot, my friend. You are literally a dolphin robot.
Go out and come back.
Yeah,
that'd
probably.
probably be for the best. I want to say before I get this, don't get this out here, Kevin Logan. You know, it'd be nice if he mentioned me in the description where he used my Sargon fan art in the thumbnail of his picture of his one of his videos. I'm like, I even confronted him on that once. So,
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I mean, like, and I'm just gonna say this right now publicly, in case any of them fucking hear it. Steve Shives, Kevin Logan, Christy Winters, Lacey Green, Ranting Feminist. I don't care if you.
Well, not ranting. Ranting's nice.
either way, any one of them. If you consider yourself, progressive, left wing, if you consider yourself part of the social justice movement, if you consider yourself a feminist, if you're a supporter of Black Lives Matter, I do not care. By all fucking means, please. I'm not going to pull a Steve Shives here and say, oh, you disagree with me, so as much as I want to have a dialogue, no, I fucking hate you, so we're not. No, I don't care what your position is. Please, if you are listening to this, hit me up. I'm on fucking Twitter. I tweet at you sons of bitches enough. Hit me up.
Can I give you some advice?
Let's have a discussion. Let's actually address the issues. Let's have opposing opinions. Let's actually go over and
give you some pointers on that one. If you really want to talk to some of these people, then my recommendation would be to politely tweet at, say, Chrisiosity, Michael Rowlands, or Tim Blake. These guys are all as long, if you don't come at them with like, you're a piece of shit and I think you're stupid, then they're probably going to tweet back at you, and they're pretty good at engaging. If you go after the bigger names, the Christy Winters, the Steve Shives, they have a habit of running away. They have a habit of going, oh, no, I can't hear you. I don't want to see you.
Absolutely, I understand, and I follow these people, most of them, and I tweet at them once in a while because some of them will say something kind of funny and cute, and I'll tweet something back that's kind of silly and all that stuff, and they'll be like, that's good. So at some point I will actually tweet at them, but I'm just saying, for the sake of conversation and all that stuff, if they are listening right now, or if they listen to this in the future, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're left-wing, right-wing. If you're alt-right, social justice warrior, or centrist, I don't give a crap. I don't care about your position. If you're a feminist or whatever, anti-feminist, I don't care. If you want to have a discussion, if you want to actually, go over the nuances and the details of any position, I am more than willing to have that talk with you, and I will not be confrontational. I will not sit there. I will not have fucking personal attacks and everything. I want to hear what you have to say, and I want to go over what you have to say point by point, and I want to have this discussion and dialogue.
Agreed.
So by all means, hit me up. I am on Twitter at the Wolf's Word.
Come on the Dolphin Radio show at some point and chat with me. I talk to these people all the time.
Endorphin's far right.
Yeah.
I'm far right, and I have chat like Chrisiosity, and I actually have a pretty good rapport. Michael Rowlands and I have a pretty good rapport. I introduced Sam to American Atheist.
Unfortunately, he couldn't come on the show. His mother, I think, had a car wreck, and I think he's at the hospital or something like that. Unfortunately, didn't get to talk to him. He's been nothing but recovery.
Dolphin was doing.
I really hope their mother turns out okay. I really do. That's terrible.
I do too.
I know.
I mean, that's the whole impetus of the Dolphin Radio show, is to bring people with opposing viewpoints on and talk about something other than what
I must say, Dolphin needs to be like the up-and-coming Rookie of the Year, because Dolphin has had some of the best streams I've ever been the pleasure of being on and listening to, because his Michael Rowlands talk that he did with him was excellent.
Well, yeah, by all means, I would. And by all means, I would be more than happy to come on to Dolphin Radio at some point and have a discussion with these people, because I'm a very opinionated guy. Understandably, most people are, but I'd love to have these discussions. I'd love to have these conversations, because I think regardless of one's political.
I told Michael Rowlands, go ahead and I franchise my shit out, and he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to start doing the same thing you're doing. This, wow, awesome, that's good. I would really love to see.
It doesn't matter what your political or ideological opinions are or anything. What matters is that you sit down and you actually have a civil, genuine conversation with people who disagree with you.
Well, then you have the discussion I had with a feminist, and that was horrible. So.
And I think it's a way for us to segue into the discussion of political violence.
Yeah.
Everyone talked at once there. What's happening?
I believe that Chair was trying to say something about.
Yeah, I
it
just said
being
I
the
had
greatest
a
thing ever.
yeah, I had some sort of debate or something with it. It was supposed to be a discussion, but we had two of my guests and then two of the so they had a lawyer with them and they brought all these people on, and it just turned into a big giant horrible argument, and they weren't willing to discuss any issues. And every time we did, they were like, "Oh no, we can't. We're not allowed to use specific examples." Blah blah blah. And it's just like,
Who the fuck did you talk to that had a lawyer with them?
that was my Eli Bosnick thing.
I don't even know who the fuck that is.
You guys remember Trigglypuff's lawyer?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you
She had a
I don't-
lawyer?
I've never talked
No,
to Trigglypuff.
there was a stream. There was a guy that did. He's got a whole channel dedicated to interviewing anti-feminists and feminists and stuff. And all he asks them is like, "How did you get your start?" and so forth and so on. And he had Trigglypuff on like right after the Trigglypuff incident, and she brought on this quote unquote lawyer who straight out advocated people to violate the law and was misquoting stuff left and right. And it was like, if you're a lawyer, you just threw your bar exam down the drain.
Yeah.
Like, if you were a real lawyer, you would know that what you're doing, what you're saying, is illegal.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I do know that a moment ago somebody did, when everyone was talking, they did try to mention at what point in the stream are we going to discuss the issue of political violence. And
Yeah, that was one.
and I do think that's a good
great
segue into an article I have here by Heat Street.
Let's hear it.
Titled "The Left Celebrates Anti-Milo Yiannopoulos Violence at Berkeley." And it starts with, "Freedom of speech does not mean from consequences," is an oft regurgitated line on the illiberal left, who forget that laws against violent behavior exist to prohibit the silencing of political speech through violent means. As trash fires burned and businesses were looted, the left celebrated violent efforts to silence Milo Yiannopoulos, the gay conservative firebrand whose event at UC Berkeley was canceled. Several Trump supporters were also injured in the chaos as rioters assaulted them with steel rods and used pepper spray to intimidate them. Much of the violence was perpetrated by Antifa, self-styled anti-fascism activists who align with anarchism. Following the late-night violence in Berkeley, vocal members of the progressive left took to social media to voice their support for the riot, dubbing it a legitimate resistance movement against the Trump administration. Feminist film director Lexi Alexander, who has directed episodes of Arrow, Supergirl, and American Gothic, encouraged rioters to set the campus on fire. And with a tweet from her saying, "Punch Nazis. Riot when your college invites a Nazi. Set it all on fire. In case of doubt, study history." Her calls to, quote, "join the resistance" were echoed by comedian and actress Sarah Silverman, whose outspoken calls for violent insurrection have only escalated with each passing day, with a tweet from Sarah Silverman saying, "Wake up and join the resistance. Once the military is with us, fascists get overthrown. Mad King and his handlers go bye-bye." And I'm sure we've all seen that.
Yeah.
You know the saddest part about
terrorism? That's a call to action, and that is not protected under free speech. If I stand up in a crowded theater and yell fire, that's a call to action.
I was thrown in the court. Just saying. Not to be a dick, but that was kind of thrown in the court.
Yeah, I can't stand how one of them reference learn history when they're actively repeating it.
Well, yeah, and I brought this up in our in part one of the stream, is that, God, who fuck was it? It was Jonathan Pye on one of his latest videos. He straight up says, you claim to be against fascism. You claim to be, protesting against fascist ideas, and yet you go out and you use politically motivated violence to silence dissenting opinions, to silence political opposition. That is fascism. So what I think a lot of the issues, particularly with Antifa and a lot of these politically motivated violent groups, is that they don't see the irony of their own actions.
Yeah, you just change what they're stating as Nazis into Jews, and they're repeating what Nazi Germany did. You know, they're saying, "Oh, Nazis aren't people." You know, they're using violence. They're like, "Oh, these Nazis are ruining everything. This is why we're having so much troubles."
Yeah,
They're actively repeating history, just with different names and different places, and
which is where I take particular issue with the narrative of this blanket term of calling anybody who doesn't agree with you as a Nazi, and then attempting to perpetuate the idea that it's okay, that Nazis aren't people, Nazis aren't human. You're worthless. You don't deserve human rights. So we're gonna beat you up. We're gonna use violence against you, just because not even with a legitimate argument to support the idea that this person is a Nazi or a fascist, but just to call them that essentially is somehow some kind of justification for hurting these people.
And that's what they did in Nazi Germany. They used Jew as a justification. And that's what they're doing now again.
Yeah, like in Nazi Germany, even if you weren't a fucking Jew, if you even looked like one, if you acted like what they said one acts like, or anything like that, they'll just label you a Jew, and then they'll beat the shit out of you. They'll burn down your business, and they'll run you out of the town.
Yeah, it was really interesting watching the UC Berkeley riots, and then I saw some comments under my videos when I talked about it. Is people were comparing it to the Night of Broken Glass in some cases, and in some ways I can't exactly disagree with them and things like that. It's actively repeating history.
Well, not only that, I mean, one of my favorite things was all the smashed up ATMs, because ATMs represent the patriarchy. Smash the patriarchy.
Oh yeah, all this white cis male patriarchal capitalist society bullshit.
So smash the ATMs and take the money, because that's the solution.
Yeah. We're against the capitalist patriarchy, so let's smash ATMs and then take the money, because money is so important.
So we can go buy stuff from the capitalist patriarchy.
We
love how they also...
We need to replace our iPhones. We need to upgrade.
I love how they also smashed Starbucks, even though Starbucks has offered a bunch of jobs to refugees.
Yeah. Well, something I'd like to go ahead and say before the stream gets too hairy or goofy. There is one limitation to the First Amendment. There is one granted limitation and it's the same limitation that exists to all the amendments. It is the most forgotten amendment in the Bill of Rights. It's the Ninth Amendment. The Ninth Amendment says your rights end where everybody else's rights begin, which means you cannot use your rights to take away anybody else's, period. That's the only limitation of free speech. There is no hate speech. There is no violent speech. There is no hostile speech. I don't want to hear it. If you use your speech, like I can think of one example of using your speech to take away somebody else's rights, and that's doxing. That's it.
That's where essentially the idea of, everybody has a right to free speech. Everybody can say whatever they want until one of two things happen. Either you are intentionally making a call to action for or inciting violence against others, or
that's not an act of speech. That is a call to action. It's like saying a dog leash law applies to a cat. No, it doesn't. Free speech and a call to action are two completely different things. If you stand in front of a crowd of people and demand the execution of somebody, that's a call to action.
They are two completely different things, but they fall within the same kind of umbrella, which is exactly why a call to action is where free speech stops. The second thing is when you are attempting to use your right to free speech, as you said, to limit the freedoms and free speech of others.
Or to limit somebody else's any of their rights. For example, the Supreme Court in the United States has declared anonymity to be a human right. If you do not want to be known, you have that right.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If people have the right to privacy.
Dox you, then they violated the Ninth Amendment. They have used their rights to violate yours. Which is why I not only do I disagree with doxing, I consider it a violation of civil rights. And I'm sure that I could make that argument in court and have it held up.
And I can absolutely agree with that. especially when, you know, having dissenting opinions and having those dissenting opinions released to the general public around you, it can severely harm you. You know, you could get fired, you could have, you know, people vandalize your home and things like that. We've already seen with this whole Nazi thing that someone, like some neighbor in some neighborhood decided to put out a Nazi flag on their front porch as some kind of weird ironic joke or whatever. Somebody took a picture of that and then posted the address to Facebook. Unfortunately, though, they posted slightly the wrong address. And so, well, you shouldn't release the address either way, but now people have been vandalizing, making death threats to a family who are not Nazis, who I believe the mother is Mexican and the father is African American, and they have 2 small children. And all because of this, and the doxing and the releasing of information, and just, you know, they're Nazis, go get them. These people are now having to move.
Well, that's one of the particular issues I have with doxing. I don't care if you're on the right or the left. I don't give a shit. Is that doxing inherently, in and of itself, is that, you know, releasing people's personal information, that's going a bit too far, especially if you're releasing names and you're releasing home addresses. That's almost in and of itself a call to action. It's almost begging people, go here and fuck these people up. Go here and screw with these people. Go here and make these people's lives a living hell. It is, I mean, honestly, if you look at it, it is, you know, to its own extent, essentially assault. Because you're basically saying, hey, here's these people, here's their names, and here's where they live, and here's their phone numbers.
Oh, definitely. And I think that if you release that information and you know, it is clear that, you know, you released it in malice and something happens to that family, even if it's by proxy, you should also be held accountable and you should also go to jail.
Well, it's still a violation of civil rights within the United States. Like, I came after, when I first got into YouTube, I went after AIU for being happy to dox people. And I was like, you need to go read the 9th Amendment, you asshole. And a lot of his flying monkeys came and took a shit all over my YouTube site before, you know, just for that. And and they were like, you know, he's German, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, he better not come back to the United States then. That's the bottom line, because he's violated people's rights by using his rights. And therefore, if he comes back, he can be held accountable and be held in civil court for violating somebody's civil rights.
Well, and that's why I mean, because the internet's global. So, I mean, you could get somebody in fucking Russia or Turkey or fucking China fucking, you know, doxing people and doing this shit. And that's why, you know, when it comes to doxing, when it comes to releasing personal information, you know, there is the precedent to say that this is a violation of human rights. This is a violation of, you know, a lot of different things, and there's so many different consequences that can come from it that, you know, I can honestly, you know, see someone at some point, you know, making a push at the United Nations to say that if you do this, you are breaking the law.
Yes,
because you are inherently, you know, violating someone's, you know, not only human but civil rights, regardless of what country you live in, because the UN Charter is very specific.
What's we on about now, mates?
Doxing, AIU, you know, the usual.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about doxing.
No, recently, if you guys know who Mr. Patron is, he's recently been going after the Unstoppable Atheist for his doxing promotion.
Oh, fucking Devin Tracy.
Yeah, that's who I was talking about, AIU. AIU.
Oh, okay.
Atheism is unstoppable. That's the same guy that I was talking about. That's who started me on the career. I went after him.
Politipod, I swear to fucking
like,
God, are you wiping your fucking phone on your goddamn pant leg? I swear to fuck.
Dude, just hit the mute mic button.
There, I'm good now.
That's what you say.
Did you finally come? Are you done?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, I know this stream is exciting, but please contain yourself.
But my
Also, by the way, it's a
politics.
15 megaton bomb to blow up the UAE. Just
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So
joy.
15 megaton. That's
15
all we need?
megaton should do it. It usually takes
We
up-
just gotta ship the pedos over there first.
Absolutely.
Well, there's quite a few.
That's all right. They'll
Especially
fit.
in Dubai.
I mean, they'll fit in Dubai. There's plenty of empty houses there, empty apartments and shit.
There's especially in empty islands.
They are all.
Have
They,
you guys seen that?
they have all those high
UAE?
rises for a reason.
No, have you seen in the UAE?
Yeah, and they're all completely empty.
They have like man-made islands that have houses on
They're
them.
palm tree islands.
Yeah, they're waiting for
Yeah.
they're waiting for people who have like $500 million to spend to
Yeah, it's
fucking buy them up.
expensive as hell.
That's because people were buying them and then reselling them for a profit to people who were buying them to resell them for a profit to people who were buying them to resell them for a profit. You see where I'm going with this?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What a sad little cycle it is.
It is.
Yeah. It's called a bubble.
Which is gonna burst anytime now.
Yeah,
And
but
Americans are telling you need to get rid of the penny.
yeah, just to redirect the conversation a little.
Yeah.
Because I know I was reading that article about the UC Berkeley riots and everything.
Right.
That's
what-
political violence,
That is.
and it's paid for. That's the sad part is that it's being sponsored.
George Soros.
You know, I'm not going to put the blame on anybody in particular, but when you see people showing up, and then you look into them and you find out that they actually are getting some sort of private donations, and you're like, wait a second, what are you getting these for? Where are these coming from?
Well,
You know,
my
we
particular
started-
question was my particular movement of the discussion was going to be on, what you all think about and your opinions and such on the group Antifa.
I
It's a
don't
what-
know.
terrorist organization.
Essentially,
Nazis
essentially, what you have to think about the group in and of itself, and how you would personally kind of describe their position.
In their act to be anti-fascist, they have themselves become anti-fascist.
Or fascists.
They're fascists. I mean, they are themselves a terrorist organization and should be dealt with as such.
Yeah, I was not aware of their existence before all these riots happened, and so far my first impression of them is not good.
I'm going to go
Well, they
ahead
have been-
and make a famous quote ahead of time and say that the anti-Antifa of the future, I'm sorry, the Antifa of the future will be called anti-Antifa.
All right, Churchill, calm down.
Yeah, and their slogan will be, "Really, you guys, we're not fascists."
Really, super.
Like seriously, guys, for like super cereal.
No, they'll be in like SS brown shirt uniforms, and they'll be like, "No, guys, seriously, we're not fascists."
No, I love the fact that they call themselves the Black Bloc because the brown shirts were taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll honestly at some point I think see Antifa walking around in like straight up SS uniforms, being like, "Seriously, guys, we're anti-fascists."
We're
But do they
super,
call themselves that? or
Like,
are they-
oh my god, guys,
or-
we're super cereal here, like super
we're
cereal.
super inclusive. We
But
love
is that Black Bloc
Everybody
thing?
made it this time.
The Black Bloc thing though, is that a Spencer thing or did they call themselves that?
No, they
No,
call
they've
themselves
been the
Black
Bloc
Bloc.
for forever.
Yeah.
The Black Bloc
Bloc.
has been around for about 20-something years now.
It's like you guys, we're wearing these swastikas as a symbol of peace.
If I'm not
Swastikas used to
mistaken, I
mean
think-
peace.
I think Antifa's been around since before the 90s, I think.
Look, we turned it around so it faces the other way. Now it's not a swastika; it's a reverse swastika because we're Antifa.
Am I correct in saying that they were before the 90s? Because I'm pretty
Well,
sure they were
Antifa
the
in and of
Yeah,
Antifa as a group in and of itself is they're fairly recent, but the tactics they use, because the Black Bloc is not a group, it's not an ideology, nothing like that. It's a tactic, and the Black Bloc has been used at least since 1991. It may have been used, I think, earlier than that, but very rarely. It's only particularly recently that the Black Bloc has been implemented, especially by these so-called anti-fascist groups and Antifa in particular.
I think it's interesting the parallel that they have between, one, the Nazi Party, and two, the IRA. They have very similar qualities with the IRA.
It is because Antifa, kind of like the Nazis and kind of like the IRA and them, is that, you know, for some odd reason, they always seem to believe that violence is the one and only justifiable means in order to make some kind of political statement. Not understanding bullshit. Or realizing that using the violence is what will inevitably kill their fucking movement.
Well, yeah, literally.
Yeah, because you know what?
Shoot themselves.
On the other side of their fight are people who actually own and know how to use guns.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, see, and they can't continue this and not expect people to end up retaliating. And,
on a side note, and I hate to interrupt, but on a side note, did anybody else see that incredibly, like, I'm going to go fat to it in a few minutes video of that woman pulling an assault rifle out of her bag and putting it up real quick?
Yeah, that's tactical training.
Oh my God, I need masturbation material.
But
this stream is brought to you by Tenga Eggs. Tenga Eggs, go fuck yourself.
Absolutely. but one of the big things I have against Antifa, especially their politically motivated violence tactics, is they're always running through the streets breaking shit and hurting people and everything. And then they're bitching about, we're in a police state, the government's evil and fascist and everything.
They're going to come by us one by one.
Yeah, not fucking understanding that as a government exists, as it functions, it doesn't matter what fucking government it is that the minute you start using politically motivated violence against the people and the institution and the government itself is the point when the government will have justification for using violence against you. Is that these people bitch about, we're in a police state, and all that bullshit. They are, by their own tactics, encouraging the very government crackdown against them that they love to run around and bitch about while they're beating the shit out of innocent people.
And I think it's funny because Trump's not a bitch like Obama was. So he will daddy smack them back to the 12th century.
Oh, yeah. Daddy will come down hard on these fuckers.
I think these people I think the motivation behind this is that they, in their normal lives, they're fucking boring ass people that are just absolute failures in life. And so then they feel that, like, the only way that they can have any excitement is if they're just constantly, pushed down by the man and they're gonna rise up in this revolution.
Well, see, that's a particular point that Sargon made, is that, a lot of these fucking Antifa people and all these little uppity people, is that most of them, they're middle-class, weak-ass little fucking pieces of shit who go to fucking college and work for these nonprofits and they have all their sociological degrees. These people have no fucking concept of what real violence is, which is exactly why he showed that clip of that working man who just fucking busted through them because they were being shitbags. And then the minute that chick decided to take kind of swing at him, he just fucking
knocked her the fuck out.
Oh,
and then that other little scrawny son of a bitch was trying to, like, stab him with a flagpole, and he just fucking grabbed it and threw it to the ground. He's like, come at me, bitch.
He just knocked the hell out. Well,
exactly.
These people have no fucking idea.
That's what happens when Antifa runs into men who are men.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. They don't go to places where, weapons can be used. They go to places such as Berkeley in California. California, one of the hardest and strictest gun states in the United States.
Berkeley, Chicago, Washington, D.C.
And especially on a college campus. They go to college campuses where there are ridiculous amounts of,
Yeah, because God forbid these people tried to pull something like this.
Well, guns aren't allowed on campus anywhere. That's the thing.
Well, I'm just saying, God forbid these sons of bitches actually tried to pull this kind of crap in, like, downtown Dallas, Texas.
Oh,
I almost guarantee one of them starts swinging a flagpole, they're gonna get shot.
Any of the red states, any of them.
I've got one better for you. Bring this shit to San Jacinto, Texas, and just to the first name. When you're walking past the giant fucking memorial with the great big star where Santa Ana was brought to his knees and made to sign a contract that he hated, and tell those people, we're gonna tell you what to think.
Oh God, they'd
go there.
Even the woman in the area would beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, they will spike you on the top of that fucking memorial.
And that's the thing is that they're such fucking pussies. They'll never actually go to
Yeah,
a place where they can
they
confront people because
Yeah.
they know for a fact that you try to do this crap outside of your little safe zones and gun-free zones and crap like that. You try to pull that crap, or you take a swing at somebody, or you try to stab or hit somebody with a fucking flagpole. These fuckers will just pull out a gun and they'll pop your ass in the head, and they'll be in the right because that's self-fucking-defense.
Yes,
So we're waiting
and
for we're waiting for one of those things to
Anybody
happen.
on the left that really wants to try and see if something's going to work, my advice is your first stop needs to be San Jacinto. If it doesn't work in San Jacinto, it's not going to work anywhere. Okay?
Yeah.
If you cannot survive San Jacinto, then you're not going to function.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why
we're
I find
talking-
it so funny that like the mainstream media and all that stuff, they're trying to make like the Berkeley thing seem like it's some big fucking thing. Oh my god, so many people have to support it. Da, da, da. It's like, dude, they're in downtown fucking Berkeley, California, right in the middle of campus. This
Are surrounded by
this
liberal cities.
quote
like
this
Oakland
quote
and San
unquote
Fran.
progressive fucking hotbed. Most people there are going to be the fucking supporters and all that stuff. Go somewhere where people can actually challenge your fucking ideas, and let's see how fucking far you get.
New
Yeah,
York
we're-
fucking city.
Yeah, we're
Let's
talking
see how you do
about
in Arizona. Let's see how you do in Texas. And not Austin. I'm not talking about Austin. Austin's a bitch town. Go somewhere real. Go to
Yeah.
San Jacinto. Go to Dallas. Go to Houston. See how that shit works there.
Yeah, we are talking about people that can have a running start and a sucker punch, and they won't bring the man down.
Well,
with
did you see
Richard
the?
Spencer.
Did you watch that clip and did you see how tiny this little scrawny shitbag was? I mean,
Yeah.
I may only be 5'7". I may be kind of a chubby son of a bitch. I may have back problems and I'm weak. But dude, if I had a running sucker punch on somebody,
Oh,
dude,
for sure.
I could take somebody down. How weak do you have to be?
I'm a super small, tiny gal, but you know, I was taught how to punch. I was taught how to use my weight and leverage to get in there. This guy clearly did not know how to fucking punch somebody properly.
It wasn't even so much of a punch; it was more his
It was
forearm.
like a bitch slap.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
of course he didn't come at him with a full punch because he didn't want to hurt his special snowflake little knuckles.
Bet you
Yeah,
he did
But to
hurt
be fair,
his special
Spencer
snowflake
had
little
hit
hand
back,
anyway.
it would have. If Spencer had hit back, it would have been even more pathetic looking, though.
Oh my
If
gosh, yeah.
Spencer had hit back, that guy would have been floored. The 10 other people
Nah.
around him would have been fucking floored.
No, Spencer's a weakling. Spencer's weak.
Spencer is a little bitch. He can't even grow a mustache. Not
Spencer
even
is a
little
weakling and
hips.
Spencer is a bitch, but compared to these people, he would have fucking decked him.
Oh,
He would have
for
Oh,
fucking
come
sure.
on. I'm crippled that I could have taken that guy out more than Spencer did.
Yeah,
It's like-
you won't stand for the pledge, asshole.
Well, it's like,
But-
No, I would
here's the thing, dude.
there.
I got fucking spinal issues. I can't jump. I can't even run. And I still could have decked Richard Spencer.
Oh,
but I'm
come
just-
on, dude. I broke my neck when I was 19.
But
I
I'm
can
just-
run and jump and all that.
But let's face it.
But I'm just
hitting
saying,
together
I'm just
is
saying that
stupid,
as
'cause-
much as
it
a
off.
weak little bitch as Richard Spencer is,
I
even
know,
Richard
I know.
Spencer could have floored these sons of bitches.
Yeah,
Maybe.
exactly.
And that
I
says
made
a
this-
lot.
I made this joke a while back, but I think it would be so funny if in the police report the Antifa guy would have been like, "Yeah, Richard
He-
Spencer assaulted my hand with his face."
You can't even call
broke
you,
3 fingers.
you can't even call him a white supremacist, okay? When you try to call
Ugh.
Spencer a white supremacist, because you punch a neo-Nazi in the face, he's not gonna just sit there and take it.
Well, that's the thing. Like
Yeah,
Richard
if
Spencer
you're a
standing there
neo-Nazi,
giving
it's
that
gonna
fucking
fucking
interview.
Got you.
That's
Exactly,
the thing.
that's
Richard
funny.
Spencer standing there giving that fucking interview, all these black people around, giving him shit, and a real fucking neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be there. Why? You know why?
Yeah.
Because they would have fucking ruined your ass before they even started answering questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even then, it's just like, well, I forgot what I was gonna say. But even with Spencer, it's like, no, he still didn't deserve to be sucker punched like that. But at the same time, it's just like, if people like Steve say, "Oh, it's okay," he's a Nazi, which he's not. He keeps saying in his video that I'm watching right now, like, white supremacist, blah blah blah, and he's like, when he describes Milo, he describes him immediately as a racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever.
Well, see, that's the
And
funny.
it's like,
That's the funny thing about their whole rhetoric about, oh, I'm gonna call this person a Nazi, and so it's okay to punch Nazis and stuff and shit like that. The whole funny part about their rhetoric is that they don't seem to even remotely grasp the concept that anybody, could literally and unsubstantiated say the exact same thing about them, and use that as justification to beat the shit out of them by their own rationale.
The tactics that they're using today can easily be used against them tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's the point I've been trying to make for a while now. Is that that's a point I've been trying to make for a while now. Is that you know, it makes absolutely no fucking sense for you to have this position, because inevitably, if you have this position and you push this position, inevitably, it will be turned against you. And at that point, you will have nothing to fucking bitch about, because you are the ones who fucking perpetuated it.
Yeah, but they have no foresight.
These SJWs are trying to say, like, it's so important to replace bad ideas with good ideas, but who gets to decide which ideas are good and which are bad? Because if it's
by their own standards, they think that their ideas are good and everything else is bad.
But to a lot of these people, they're very young, and often when you're really young, you tend to think that your ideas are the best ideas.
But Steve is talking about, bad ideas are ideas that have been already refuted. It's like, okay, well, how about you stop with the wage gap, you fucking idiot?
May I just say something real quick? I hate being a middle-aged.
So far from middle-aged.
A middle-class white American, because I'm hated by the left.
There's a song for you. It's by Ben Folds. It's called "Rockin' the Suburbs." You all don't know what it's like being male, middle class, and white. Those are the words.
No. I think it's "My Redneck Past" by.
Can I finish?
Well, I mean, there was a long pause there. I thought you were.
Well, no, because Chair kept interrupting.
Long pause.
Jesus Christ, he's muted. What the hell?
I think did we piss you off? Did we piss you off, Polipod? I'm sorry. Come back to us. Don't.
No, Pod's not that.
He might be talking to a family member.
Oh yeah,
Chair,
that is true. He's on his phone.
No, it wasn't me.
I guess something happened. Chair's, Pod's not a pussy. Don't drop it on him.
No, I'm just fucking around. It's all good.
On a side note, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. I've got a great comedy video that I'm going to be putting out in the next probably 2 hours. And if you guys get the chance to watch it, please do. I'm on Dolphin Radio at YouTube. I'm also on Minds and VidMe and pretty much all the others.
Oh, of course, absolutely. I'll be sure to give it a look over. And before you go, just let me say it was great having you. I'm glad for your input. And at the same time, anytime you're ever doing a live stream or podcast or whatever, if you ever, want some kind of, opinion, I'm always open, man.
Hit me up on Twitter, and we'll get you on the DRS. It may be 3 or 4 weeks because I've got a couple of weekends I've got a couple of weeks booked already. But I'll get you on the Dolphin Radio show, and we'll talk something that's not politics.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. Because no matter what it is, I'm gonna be opinionated.
Hey, excellent. That's great stuff. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really love it. You're all wonderful people, except for Samaj. She's a jerk.
Well, so long, and thanks for all the fish, you son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. You got my namesake in there.
God, I love that book. Anyway, I'll see you later.
I'll of all the books.
Yeah, I'll probably see you next time I see you. We'll probably be in a can of tuna. So, bye-bye.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy, man.
See you, bud. He's just trying to make Samaj mad on Porpoise.
Poor puss. Poor puss. Christy Winters, poor puss.
Oh god.
Oh god. And then he literally just mentioned the balance fallacy, where people think that their ideas are better than everyone else's, and it's like, why don't they ever have self-awareness ever?
Yeah, you gotta sit down every now and then and just kind of investigate yourself and ask yourself, am I wrong or am I right? Or
you took a picture of Steve and remixed his face into that video of Richard Spencer getting punched.
That's one of the particular problems I have with both the social justice left and the alt-right, is that, my God, these people have no fucking self-awareness. They have no capability of being able to sit down and reflect upon themselves. None of them.
Yeah. I don't understand that whatsoever. I really don't. I actually was discussing this with a good friend of mine who's working on a YouTube channel. And we were discussing this, how we just don't understand why people just can't sit down, like you said, and reflect on yourself. I don't see the difficulty. Just meditate on it. It's not so hard.
I mean, I literally take an hour out of my day every other fucking day to sit down and just be like, all right, what's an issue? What's my position on it? And why?
I do the exact same thing.
Why is that so? What's the opposition? Let me think about it, and eventually my opinions change. And you just don't see that with these people.
That's why, like in the last stream, I was talking about being associated with people of different faiths and whatnot, because, like I said, you need the diversity of opinion to make a well-informed thing, and let also kick your ass a little in case you need to, because sometimes we can all be a little full of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I think that like I say, diversity is pretty much the way to go. I hate using that word; it's become tainted. In this modern day interpretation, because when you say diversity in the social circles, they think you mean gender, sexuality, identity, that kind of stuff, and that's nothing at all to do with it. I mean, you could have a room with 5 white guys, and each one represents each one has a different viewpoint on the something or other. Like one could be liberal, anarchist, whatever else. So long as it's diverse, I don't care.
I mean, that's exactly kind of something that Sargon touches on in a few of his videos, is that diversity does not mean, one's inherent characteristics, be it race or gender or sexuality or anything like that. It's diversity of ideas. It's diversity of opinions. And that's why, like, you see a lot of these groups nowadays, the social justice left, the alt-right, Islam, etc., in certain circumstances, Jews and Christians and a lot of other people of faith and things, is that generally speaking, they're, kind of open, but there's an unfortunately significant portion of them that do end up being, rather insular. And they're not willing to go beyond their scope of perspective.
Yeah,
so
that's what
they have no chance to really be introduced to these things, and so they just continuously reinforce their own ideas just by sitting in their echo chambers.
See, and that's what I actually found with the Mormons that were in my high school. I live in an area where there's some Mormon churches that were near my high school. And these Mormons that were my friends would be like, hey, do you want to go to our church and, and maybe try to, feel the light of God and things like that, and see if you'll possibly turn to the Mormon faith. And I'd be like, well, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I'll give you guys the benefit of the doubt. I'll attend church with you. I'll read the first couple pages of your Bible. And if I do definitely, as you say, feel the hand of God upon me, then I will change my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, I used to live in Sacramento, California, and that is, if you want a diverse city, that's a fucking diverse city. That's almost the epitome of diversity, of racial and cultural diversity in this fucking country. And my within like 3 blocks of my fucking high school, there was a Mormon church, there was an Episcopal church, there was a synagogue, there was a mosque, there was all kinds of shit. And every single fucking one of them was always like, hey, come check us out, see what you think and all that stuff. And I went to every single one of them, and I'm like, all right, let me see what you got to say. And honestly, none of them fucking convinced me because I'm a fucking agnostic. But at the same time, it's like, at least I took the fucking chance, and I took my time to go out of my way and listen to somebody who had something to say that, even though I may not necessarily agree with, at least I took the time to fucking listen. And
I was a bit disappointed with my experience with the Mormons, because it was very, very one-sided, where I would, listen to them about their beliefs, but the minute I'd start talking about my own beliefs and opinions, they were not really open to it. And it was like really disappointing. I'm like, come on, you guys.
Well, yeah, and that's the inherent issue with, ideologues, be it political, social, religious, whatever it may be, is that, they'll invite you in. They want you to join their club. But the minute you have anything to say about your own opinion, your own perspectives, the minute you have anything to say that goes against their narrative and against their groupthink, it's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about here is the effects of groupthink, which I think is actually the problem that we're also facing with the SJW movement. It's a very much you can easily say it started off as a place of like good intentions, like with feminism and all that kind of stuff. You think like women's rights, that's fantastic. Who would be against that? And the honest answer is no one would. So then you form this group and whatnot, but groupthink can lead down bad paths because that
was kind of my point with Black Lives Matter.
Exactly.
Black Lives Matter, feminism, social justice, and all this stuff. While these groups and their intents, they may have started from places of good intention, and to a certain degree, good ideas. Inevitably, you always see these kinds of groups be hijacked by more extremist elements, which is why you see social justice being so intersectional, which is why you see Black Lives Matter being so anti-white, which is why you see religion being so anti-other religion and anti-atheist and everything else, is that inevitably you start seeing extremist point of views kind of co-opting it.
Yeah, it's
and then one way or another on one side of the table or another, or left, right, up, down, I don't give a fuck, is why you always see these people who are just kind of sitting there remote, somewhere in the center, and they feel like that trapped middle child in the middle of an argument between mother and father, youngest child and oldest child, and it's just like, oh god, whoa, I'm out. Shit just goes psycho at that point. It all honestly just kind of turns into a kerfuffle.
Yeah, I think that, like I was saying with the whole group thing, it's anything can go in a very destructive, dark, weird path. Yes.
So the outcome that I've gotten from just experience is that apparently, if you have bad ideas, you should be allowed to have the free speech to say them, but you shouldn't be allowed to have a platform to spread those ideas.
Which I think is bullshit, because if you have bad ideas,
I agree.
You have the right to say it. You have a right to have a platform to say it, but other people also have a right to challenge your ideas. They do not have a right to shut you down.
Well, how do you think you get a platform or an audience from us, the people who are watching you and listening to this shit?
Well, it doesn't matter if your audience is one person or 100 million. It doesn't matter. There's always a method of getting a platform, and the whole concept of free speech is that anyone should be allowed their platform and their position to say whatever they want and express
no
their
platforming
right.
is the opposite of free speech.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be able to have a platform, no matter what it is or where it is, to express their ideas and their opinions. And the minute you start saying that, your ideas are bad, so we're shutting you down, you are inherently against free speech. You are inherently against the idea of the First Amendment.
Those street preachers or those guys that are saying the end is nigh. You know what they used to do? They would go on the street and they would literally carry a soapbox with them, so they'd always have their platform.
Yeah, by all means, and they have that complete right. And then, because I'm more than happy to sit there, and if there's someone I don't agree with, be them, a liberal or progressive, a conservative, a libertarian, I don't really care. Whatever your platform may be, if I find some of your ideas disagreeable, I will disagree with you. But the issue when it comes to free speech, especially when it comes to the use of political violence, is that the minute you sit there and try to justify to yourself that violence is a justifiable method of shutting people down with bad ideas rather than just disagreeing with them and having a dialogue, that's the moment when you, no matter what your claim or position may be, have become a fascist.
Yeah.
I mean that's just my thing. I don't know what anybody else in the world thinks about it, but that's just my opinion. Which is why that's exactly why the UC Berkeley thing. I don't care what anybody says or what anybody tries to justify it. I'll continuously say for the rest of my life is that these, and I'm never going to call them protesters. They were not. They were rioters.
Yes.
Because
I can agree with that.
The minute you move to the use of violence, you're not a protester. If you're going to protest with your words, protest with your ideas. The minute you turn to violence, that's not a protest. That is political or ideological violence. That is a riot in and of itself.
Yeah, what I find really interesting about this is that these people are the kind of people that say that their heroes are Martin Luther King and Gandhi and the likes of them. And it's just like, no. Gandhi and Martin Luther King would not be okay with the use of violence and rioting.
Yeah, and speaking of Martin Luther King, does anybody else find it completely fucking funny that Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King sat there and said, I have a dream of a day. Basically, I have a dream of a day when all of us are judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. And then you have all these fucking Black Lives Matter people who will sit there and say, you're white, you can't quote Martin Luther King.
Or they're saying,
holy fucking shit.
Yeah, or they're saying, oh, well, that person's black, so they have more victim points.
It's like Jesus. I mean, oh my God, just I literally started to get a headache the minute I reminded myself that there are people who say, you are white, you cannot quote Martin Luther King's completely inclusive, anti-race-based fucking message. Oh, yeah. I started getting a migraine. Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh. Or when they get angry when you say, "Oh, I'm colorblind," I don't pay attention to that. Then they call you racist for not being aware of their race. Yeah. It's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck.
It's we're fighting against racism. Well, what's racism? It's where people judge each other based on the color of their skin and oppress people based on the color of their skin. It's like, well, I'm colorblind. I don't take that in consideration. I do not judge or treat anybody differently based on the color of their skin. I treat everybody equally, and I see everybody as equal. That's racist. What?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
that is how it goes.
Oh, Fox is back.
Hello.
If you're black, you can't. If you're brown or black or whatever, you can't be racist.
I mean, it's like the issue of like cultural appropriation. Like when people bitch at you about like, oh, you can't wear dreads, you're white. It's like, okay, well, I'll take out my dreads. You can't go to university and you can't use modern medicine because that's a white invention. So get the fuck out of my hospitals, my schools.
Oh, you drive a Ford? No.
Like and it's like I don't get all pissed off when you're. Oh, I do it in my head, but when you're talking about, oh, I'm disabled, and your only disability is like, I don't know, depression. You go around saying, I'm disabled.
You can't be driving your caddy anymore because a white person invented Cadillac. Sorry, I've been talking to my dad for a little bit.
Oh, it's all good.
Oh, I thought you've been watching like a.
But I can understand people, saying that they're disabled because they have depression, because technically speaking, depression is a psychological disability.
Depends how severe it is, but I'm talking about people that are just
depression in and of itself is a psychological disability, which I understand. My issue comes up when people try to use that as justification for just saying, fuck it, I don't have to work another day in my life.
Oh God, I hate that so much.
Because I am clinically diagnosed with depression. I have a completely fucked up spinal column right in my mid-thoracic, so every single day I wake up in excruciating pain. And I don't sit there and say, "Oh, poor me. Now let me live off of the social security teat."
Right?
I mean, because
I don't. Most of the time, I don't whine and bitch. I just get really high.
I know it's like okay, I am poor as shit. I live in pain every fucking day. I have clinical depression and everything else. It's like, okay, well, that's cute.
But I also have this.
I'm gonna do something of some sort that can kind of mitigate those symptoms, and then I'll get on with my fucking life.
Well, then realize the positive things going on in your life. Right?
Speaking as someone who has suffered from depression, it's very fucking difficult, but you've got to condition your mind in a way to
Oh, it can be
cope
debilitating.
with
I'm not
these
denying
things. You
that.
can't just say, you can't just constantly live in the rut and say, oh, well, I don't have to do anything to change. I have to stay the same. Like, be willing to change. Like,
Mhm.
Well,
there's
that's the
no
primary thing
sense.
with depression is that depression in and of itself, it's a chemical issue. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a neurological one or anything like that. It's a chemical issue. And
It's
there
very
are
easy to sort of wallow in yourself when you're depressed. It's very easy to just
it
Yeah.
absolutely
like,
is,
I
but
just want to stay depressed. I don't know why that is. It's
Mhm.
just,
it is absolutely easy. But at the same time, like I said, depression is a chemical issue, and there are ways of mitigating that. Not you can't get rid of it completely, obviously, but you can at least help mitigate the symptoms. No different than taking painkillers if you got a broken leg.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you can
Yeah, you can
mitigate these
take-
things, and you can kind of and you can move on with your life, and you can condition yourself mentally. You can mentally condition yourself to focus less on these things, to take a different perspective, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that kind of stuff, and it's frustrating when these people, like I don't want to end up being one of those people that's like all these people on welfare and shit, and it's I know that there's people who genuinely cannot work, but like people like Chair, I look up to this guy because he's still working on videos and things like that when you're disabled and such like that.
Honestly, though, like depression happens too with me, but the weed I take for pain, but it also helps with maintaining your mood and stuff.
God,
But, like-
I wish I could smoke weed.
Mm.
But like for doing videos, making videos distracts me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a distraction from anything
and that's
bad
another
going
thing
on.
that
Like,
works.
It
that's another
still
thing that
works, though.
That's another thing that works
it
with
is.
people who have physical disabilities, or they have depression, or they have
for it,
debilitating pain, or something like that. It's like I always tell people, it's like no matter what your condition is, or whatever it is, psychological, neurological, physical, it doesn't matter. One of the best things you can do for yourself is keep yourself distracted.
Yeah, find something. Yeah.
well, like people like Liberal Lunacy on YouTube, she goes through hell of a lot more than I do. So
Mhm.
just saying. They say you don't need to respect little old me. It's like people like her go through a lot more than I've seen. Like I've seen her pictures. No, but I've seen her pictures at the hospital when she's been in there for her disability issues, and it's like a million times worse than what I go through.
Oh, believe me,
Yeah.
you'd if I had a fucking Instagram or anything, I guarantee if I had an Instagram and I had the fucking money, you would
It would
see
be fabulous.
you would see like 10,000 faggy as fuck pictures of me in a fucking hospital gown. But I'm poor as shit and I hate Instagram. So so the best way I manage with my pain and my disabilities is I'm just like, fuck it. I'll keep myself distracted and I'll have some liquor.
Mhm.
Well, exactly. If that works for you, that works for you.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's not like not like I can afford fucking prescription meds. Fuck that.
Well, here's the
Yeah.
thing: is I tried the morphine and I tried the other option because they make you
Ooh.
at the hospital. They made me go through starting with they made me go through all the painkillers, starting with fucking plain old Tylenol. Okay.
Oh God.
Well, I'm in there for like I don't know, 2 months or close to 2 months or like a month
Were
and a
they
half.
were they
anyway.
trying to destroy your liver?
Well, no, but basically the rule is before we can even consider giving you a marijuana prescription, blah blah blah. And then they got me on morphine, but meanwhile, the pain in my leg was like neuropathic or something, and there was a big infection, so they had to pour like this vinegar stuff on my leg, right? So I'm laying there like screaming, of course, because there's nothing that'll treat that. No, this is like, have you had nerve pain in your teeth?
Ooh, ow.
I have-
It's like that kind of pain.
Ah.
Imagine pouring vinegar on that open wound.
Well, I
it's just
at least can understand kind of how you feel because I've got that sick fucking trifecta of muscle pain, bone pain, and nerve pain. So
I
it's,
said to the doctor while we're
fuck.
doing it, I said, well, can
I have a pain in my
I
ass.
want marijuana. He's like, well, until before it's legal, you could just get it on the street. That's what he said to me. I'm like, they wouldn't give me anything else for the pain other than like the morphine I was on. I wasn't doing anything.
Well, for the
So I'm
record,
like, okay, well-
Politipod, if you got a pain in your ass, stop taking so much dick.
I was like,
Oh, well,
I guess
I
I need
can't.
to
Feels good.
I guess I'll have to go with my friend. It was my ex-wife at the time and her boyfriend. I was like, I guess I'll have to go with my friend to smoke a joint then. And the doctor's like, oh no, don't do that. I'm like, but they're leaving me no choice. I'm in so much pain that I couldn't do anything about it. So I went out and smoked a joint, come back, and I'm in a happy, good mood. And the nurse was like, oh, did you enjoy your marijuana
doobie?
or whatever?
Did you enjoy your
Yeah, pretty much.
weed?
And then they got mad and
Yeah.
they said, "Oh, could your clothes smell like it when you come back in?" They didn't know that I had a joint in the cupboard. You know.
Satan's cabbage.
No, but then when I
Except
did
that
that, I'm
was
like,
lettuce.
the one nurse was like that, and I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And then she's like, "Oh, I'm glad you're not high now because you're acting all weird last night." I'm like, "No, I was acting happy for once." You know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the difference. I was happy. I wasn't in pain. I wasn't dying from pain. Like it was.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it. And then they finally got me a doctor that got me the right prescription for it, and it's fine. But I still got to pay out of pocket, so it's hard.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. Like if you need it, definitely take it. Because for me, my experience with it, it just like I don't take it medically, but I've found that it drastically improves my attitude on life and things like that.
Oh yeah. Well, there's one there's one drug called Dilaudid that they had me on, and I the night they had me on it, I was hallucinating big time, and I'm like, I'm not taking this anymore.
Well, see, that's why I find such an interesting, just to try, kind of steer us back into the issue of like free speech, First Amendment, and thing like that. That's why I find it so particularly interesting that so many people have these issues. And this is the more libertarian side of me coming out, is that so many people have these issues, be it moral or otherwise, against drugs that, while in a lot of places are currently illicit, it's like, well, what's your stance against it? And a lot of them are just like, well, it's just wrong, or it degrades society, or et cetera, and it's like...
Yeah, but then you ask about prescription painkillers, and they're like, oh, no, those are fine.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
That's where my primary issue comes up. It's like, it degrades society. And I'm just like, do you know why it degrades society? Because it's drugs. And I'm like, no, it's because they're fucking illegal and it opens up the black fucking market and crime.
Mm-hmm.
My body every 4 hours with morphine was like, I want it,
Yeah, there's a part of me that thinks that if we legalized, like, all the major drugs tomorrow, the Mexican cartel would just destroy itself. In a power struggle.
Well, that's something that fucking Portugal did.
But they wouldn't do that because they're tied to the government, so they work with the government usually.
Well, I mean, that's something that Portugal did like 12 years ago or 13 years ago. Is that they decriminalized it? They did not technically legalize every drug, but they decriminalized every drug, and they saw their drug use rates, their overdose rates. Their drug-related crime rates literally across the board dropped by at least 50%. Because we saw that during Prohibition with alcohol, is that a lot of people were being all moral and uppity about it.
Here's the thing, though: the U.S. and Mexican governments, though, are more connected to the cartels than people want to admit.
Well, they are essentially.
Of course they are.
They are
like the CIA,
essentially.
the CIA, right?
Well, yeah, the CIA is especially interested, and the Mexican government's fucking corrupt as shit.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
But
it's like,
I wouldn't go so far as to say that the United States government in and of itself is really implicit in the issue, but I think a lot of it has to do with the CIA and a lot of intelligence pressure.
Well, let's put it this way: a lot of people that speak out against the drug use and stuff, a lot of them haven't done them before, or they haven't done the research on them. They're just taking what the media and the war on drugs told them about drugs. That all this bad stuff about weed being a gateway drug and all this other stuff, and that the second you smoke a joint, the next week you're going to be smoking crack, and it's like it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Sorry, my cat.
It depends on your personality. Like certain people have an addictive personality, whether it's alcohol or smoking or whatever it is.
So, what are your sort of positions on legalizing drugs? Like, obviously, I think most of us here would be pro legislation of marijuana.
Oh, absolutely.
100%, yeah.
Well, when it comes to marijuana, I'd say legalize it and tax it. And when it comes to harder drugs like
make those dollar bills.
When it comes to harder drugs,
decriminalize the other ones. Right.
Well, when it comes to other drugs, what I would say is that on top of decriminalizing, a good idea would be to a system like in Switzerland and Portugal is that on top of decriminalizing, introduce all those dollars that were being used for criminal prosecution and prisons and punishment, turn that instead a lot of those dollars over to an issue of rehabilitation. which is because I know like Switzerland has, I think it's they have they have this needle program for like for cocaine and meth addicts and all that stuff like that, where this is somewhere that people can go so that they can safely.
They
safely
have nurses on hand to inject for them.
They have that in Canada too now. So
yeah, they can safely go to a location. They can get an injection, all that stuff. But it's very regulated. It's very careful. And then for a lot of people, it's an issue of slowly drawing it back until these people no longer need it or feel like they need it in their lives, and they can move beyond it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in a huge meth area, and they also have the methadone. Like with the other drug, with heroin or whatever, it's just like, no, just go to the methadone clinic, get hooked on methadone instead. But
yeah, crack and heroin are like huge in my area. It's bad.
Yeah, meth is a big issue down here in the South.
Yeah, especially in Kentucky. Kentucky and Missouri are like the two worst.
Oh God, and West Virginia, Jesus.
Well, West Virginia.
I feel bad for West Virginia because they have a meth problem, but they also at the same time have a humongous fucking prescription drug problem.
But you look, we
They also got a huge Mountain Dew problem.
And then Black Lives Matter can shut up finally about the, all these drug convictions, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
then they can all shut up about
Black
it.
Lives Matter never shut the fuck up. They're gotten to the point where they'll find anything to bitch about. Like, which is one of the issues I take with Black Lives Matter.
Trudeau being a white supremacist terrorist, so that should really say it all.
Yeah, one of the biggest issues I have with fucking Black Lives Matter, and I've said this 50 million fucking times, is they love bitching about, the white supremacy and all that bullshit, and, we're keeping the black man down, and I'm just like, okay,
a Black Liberation Movement, that's okay.
Yeah, I've got a few fucking questions. First of all, why are so few fucking black people getting married and actually having stable families? Secondly, why are so many black people dropping out of high school? White people aren't forcing you out of high school.
Well, because it'd be crazy, that's why.
Third,
and I know people are gonna get mad at me for saying this, but I find that a lot of the black issues in the community tend to stem from like their sex lives.
A lot of them do.
A
lot of them do because black people in black communities tend to be.
Without a morality argument coming into play, you look at the problems in the black community. You look at the single motherhood rate is the highest.
I was raised by a single mom, so that issue doesn't really that argument doesn't really hold though.
What do you mean?
Not entirely.
Well, the argument doesn't hold the argument doesn't hold to a certain extent, but when 72% of your entire demographic is when it comes to households is single mothers, when your single motherhood rate is up to this point of being 72%, that's when it goes beyond those general arguments and it starts becoming a problem.
Yeah. Well, in that regard, when you start
but white people. Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, like when you talk about things like the single motherhood thing, you start getting into the men's rights movement because they've noticed a lot of that going on. You also look at the numbers of, let's say, criminals in prisons, and if you look at the male population, I think it was like 60% of the prison population came from single parent households and predominantly mothers. And that was also because our legal systems have been pretty discriminating against men. It's not just black communities. Like that's one of the most obvious ones you can look at. But if you look at some of the other family households, like in white communities as well, these have the same issues. If there's no father in there, they tend to get more criminal. And in the case of like little girls, they tend to go. That's when you have like the epidemic of teenage pregnancy.
Well, that's exactly the issue. Is that it's not a racial issue, the issue of single motherhood. It's just that in black communities, you see it's almost to the point of being blown out of proportion.
They've got around
is kind of why that these issues, stemming from single motherhood households and things like that, tend to be more exacerbated.
Well, when you look at here's my whole problem with the single motherhood rate in the black community. If you're looking at it from a strictly subjective viewpoint, single mothers tend to have more children who are arrested, and they tend to be some of the poorest people in America.
But again, I was poor.
No,
I have one
Chair,
sister.
Well, Chair,
and
you're an
this isn't a
exception, not the
morality
rule.
argument. Everyone is an exception.
Mhm.
It's always there's some exceptions to every rule.
Yeah,
don't
there's
see-
always outliers.
I mean, it's not like I'm saying your mother was a terrible person because she's having.
Well, she was, but
Yeah, well, we're not saying that. We're not saying
I
that
know.
about your mother.
I
And
know.
to be fair, though, I mean, I also was raised by a single mother. So I think that there would have been a great deal more benefits if I had a father. Not just that, but also in the financial thing. Because, like, if two parents are bringing in an income, which in this modern day standpoint, two parents bringing in an income is a good life. It's
Yeah.
probably more ideal than a single parent.
Well,
White families, I think the number's around 30%. Okay, with black families, yeah, you're right. It's like 77, right?
Oh God,
So
it's
those
gone
are the
up.
numbers that
rate
you're
in
looking at.
America right now is at an all-time high, and I think that just kind of speaks out because we got a lot of problems in America, and I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, abortion and stuff like that is an option. I'm not gonna say that, but I am going to say that maybe people should be using contraceptives more. Question mark.
Well, that's
Well, that's the whole point of
that's-
Planned Parenthood. That goes back to the Planned Parenthood thing. Why they're pissed.
I'm
Well, no,
not
that's a
arguing
particular
abortion.
that's a particular issue that I've seen.
No, I'm talking about birth control that's available at these places,
Yes,
right?
I'm well aware of that, Chair,
Yeah,
but I'm not.
when it comes to things
arguing
like contraceptives, like using the pill, using condoms, and things like that, and maybe this is just my extremely vast fucking experience with the black community, sexually speaking. Sure, it was all, and I have a particularly interesting perspective on this because they were all with guys, but I've noticed that particularly in the black communities, but also to a pretty strong extent in the Hispanic community especially, is that the issues of contraceptives when they come up they're usually very strongly against them for some reason. And that could be for a multitude of reasons. I mean, I know especially for the Hispanic community, a lot of it's familial, a lot of it's
It doesn't feel the
religious.
same.
Well, no. I think it's more of an argument of they think that. Well, especially because being a Catholic, I think it's more of a well, the Catholic Church doesn't like us to have, sex out of wedlock and stuff like that.
Well, and that's why I can sort of understand it from especially the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
Is that there is a lot of a religious connotation to the issue they take with contraceptives and condoms and things like that. And to a certain strong extent, it also applies to the black community. But
I'm having that Monty Python song going through my head. Every sperm is sacred. Every sperm is great. If a sperm is wasted, then God gets quite irate. I think
something like that.
the meaning of life.
But
That's pretty good.
But for the black community, for the black community especially, I don't know why, but at least in my experience, there's just this issue that they take with using contraceptives or using condoms or things like that, and almost universally, every time, basically, the argument never comes down to a religious conviction or anything like that. It's always some generally nonsensical fucking argument of some idea they have about it because they never got taught properly in a fucking sex ed class.
I thought
I think there's four contributing factors to the lack of contraception used by minorities, and it's I'm not trying to be sounding racist always, but it's a very startling fact that it is mostly minorities that have these problems, and I think it comes from four things. One, it's religious connotation. Two, it is a lack of education on sex ed in general in schools.
Yeah.
Three, it is a lack of what's it called? It's more of the argument of that doesn't feel good, stuff like that. And then four is, it's young love at that point, I think.
Well, I've noticed this especially from personal experience that the majority of the reasons that the guys have ever given me for why they don't want to use condoms or something like that is at least in my experience, I know this is completely anecdotal, but at least in my experience, a lot of them have given me the excuse that they think using a condom or something, or using contraceptives, somehow makes them less of a man.
I have never heard that argument, but I can see where it's coming from.
Well, when you have taken in as much black dick as I have, you'll hear it often.
I would not know that, sir.
Are you?
But I will defer to you.
I know you wouldn't know because Jesus hates that.
Well, I mean, I'm not one of those guys, though. I'm pro LGBT.
You're not one of them homos? What?
No, I'm pro LGBT.
Sure. That's not what you meant.
Oh,
no, I'm joking. But no, like.
Stop talking. You're disabled.
I know a lot of it is like, yeah.
Don't be ableist.
Right, blah blah blah.
I'll be ableist if I want to, buddy.
Good for you.
Like I don't know if it's a lack of education, but here's where my issue comes in politically. Right? Okay, here's where my what do you call it? Contradiction? I don't know. My fight within myself, right? Is that on one side you got the stuff Planned Parenthood is doing with abortion, where they're selling the body parts, blah blah, which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't agree with promoting it as the only option, but then programs like Planned Parenthood do have an educational component to them when it comes to contraceptives and sex ed and everything.
Okay,
they do, but that's the thing about it is that Planned Parenthood, you can call up almost every Planned Parenthood in the country, and that the overwhelming majority of them will say that they offer abortion services, but they don't
offer prenatal care.
Exactly, they don't offer prenatal care. They don't offer this information, this education.
Because here they do, right?
Which honestly, when it comes to the issue of Planned Parenthood, because I'm a big Planned Parenthood supporter, but the issue I take with them is the fact that they don't offer prenatal care everywhere. They don't offer these services everywhere. They just almost say, you should just have us suck it out of you.
I raise you this option. Can there not be a organization that is just for contraceptives, prenatal care, and stuff like that?
There absolutely could be. There absolutely could be, and there should be.
Here's the thing. That's not being talked about as an option. It's always, well, we have to have Planned Parenthood.
Yeah,
no, we don't. We don't have to have Planned Parenthood. That's the thing. You
have to have
Planned Parenthood.
A organization doing it.
Right. Yes, and I'm fine with an organization giving someone, things such as, because I'm not pro-abortion, but I'm also not anti-abortion.
All the options should be given. Right? All the options should be presented.
In certain cases, I am for abortion. There's a few, there's exceptions to every rule, like I said. But whenever you go and you say, well, we can't have this because we don't want that. We want people to have the option to do X. Whenever there's an obvious solution to the problem being presented, and the solution to that problem being offer a service that is just for prenatal care. You cannot sit there and tell me that that's not a card that can be put on the table.
Well, that honestly, that entire kind of fucking argument, it really does kind of play into the issue of free speech, First Amendment, and everything else. Because, like in particular, we look at something like the education system, where for the most part, it's generally state by state, particularly in terms of sexual education. And while I may not personally, for the most part, agree with the whole abstinence argument, at the same time, I do understand to a certain extent the importance of actually having that kind of discussion and of having that kind of argument, which is why I personally think that, something like sex education, it should be, pretty standard. It should be across the board. Every school should teach it. Well, every public school should teach it. But at the same time, if a state should choose to also include an abstinence education program, then by all means, please do so, because it is still an option.
Well, I think they should be one and the same. I'm not advocating for either. I think they should just give the facts to people, and I think it should be a mandatory thing to be taken at age 16. Just take 1 year of it, one semester or whatever, and you're done with it.
Well, that's what the problem was, is that these abstinence programs were abstinence only.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's
no,
that's my primary
Don't get
issue
me
with
wrong,
a lot
I'm
of these
not advocating
programs.
for abstinence because by far,
Yeah.
trust me, I am not abstinent. But
Are you saying you're a sinner?
Yeah.
oh, I'm definitely a sinner.
We all fall short. We all fall short of the glory of God, right?
I
So-
have
My
so
entire
much
my
sex, I don't
entire
even know if it's
argument,
crazy.
but my entire argument, it's not that we shouldn't. It's not that we should teach abstinence only, because I think the abstinence only route is fucking ridiculous. But I do agree that people, they need to be given the facts, they need to be given the information, they need to be given the details, which is why I think, you know, across the board, nationwide, all public schools should be required, you know, at a certain point, to teach actual sex education. And they should be they should actually go into the details and the facts and this data and the stats and everything else and all the data, all the information about it. But I think that in terms of abstinence, I think that one should be an issue that should be left up to the states to decide, do we wish to include it? Because especially here in the South, I know there's a lot of states and a lot of counties that require abstinence only programs. And when you look at all the graphs and all the maps, it's generally these states and it's generally these, especially counties, that you start seeing, you know, the highest STD rates. You start seeing the highest teen pregnancy rates and everything that goes along with it. And so, you know, I can understand people's depending on their region, their issue when it comes to teaching sex education. I can understand that. But at the same time, you know, while you may have the First Amendment right to opt out of these classes, you can opt out if you want. That should be allowed. If the parents feel that this is not appropriate, they can opt their child out of it. But it should at least still be not a required course, but it should at least be required to be in the curriculum. But people should be allowed the option, their First Amendment option, to say, "This, I don't agree with this. This goes against my morals. This goes against my perspective or my religion, and I do not want my child to partake."
I agree. I agree I agree with that statement. I think my main problem with what's happening is that being from Kentucky, where we don't have sex education class, you know, we're stuck here sitting and talking about, you know, sex education. I never had a sex ed course once. You know how I learned about sex? I learned it from the internet, and that's not a good way for kids to learn.
No, it is not, because the internet can be a large and scary place. You never know what you're going into.
I think that also defeats the purpose of even going the abstinence only route, because kids nowadays, they have cell phones and smartphones and computers, and even if they don't have it, well, I guarantee one of their friends has it. They're going to learn about one way or the other. Do you want to learn about it in a safe, responsible way, or do you want them to learn from the internet? I guarantee you, the internet will teach them some interesting things.
That's how we get furries. Oh wait.
Yeah. Anyway.
Absolutely. I am a sad, pathetic, fur-fag sexual deviant, and I go to conventions. And I sit there in the convention hallway with children around, and I yiff my brains out.
You get your brains out? Oh my god!
I know.
Wow. Anyway, you guys.
Just to respond to Jax real quick in the chat. Yes, Onesian is the fag of the day.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start heading out because I got work tomorrow. So.
Alrighty.
Well, that's no problem. Honestly, we're a little over 2 hours into the part 2 here, so I think for now, I think we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna end the stream, and we can pick this conversation up, and we can just do some bullshitting and nonsense stream at some point. And we could pick up our chit chats and our conversations later, but for now, I think we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna end the stream. So I absolutely want to thank everyone that's come in today. You know, Chair, Fox, Lady Machiavelli, Samaj, and Politipod, especially, who are still here now. I want to thank them and everybody else who's come in to take part in this discussion. And so everybody who's watching or will watch this later, you know, thank you for viewing it. Thank you for enjoying the video and the stream. And if you're interested, I do have the Twitter handles down in the description of everybody who's partook today. as well as for some of them, there are links to their YouTube channels or other websites. So go ahead and feel free to check them out. I also have my link to my channel if you want to subscribe. I also have a link to my Patreon if you want to be a patron, as well as my Twitter and my Ask.fm if you want to leave me a question, because I may read it out in a video someday. But for now, I think we're going to go ahead and end the stream. So I want to thank you guys so much again. Thank you for coming on and having this great discussion with me. It's been absolutely real fun.
Oh, you're welcome. It was really awesome talking to all y'all.
Yep.
Oh, indeed. I enjoy a good old-fashioned talking.
Absolutely. And once more, thank you very much. And so if you all want to, say your goodbyes, here's your chance.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye. Take care.
All right.
Farewell.
Off we go.
Auf Wiedersehen, adieu.